into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a three-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Oh man, my hair looks so greasy in all those pictures in the intro. It's so awesome. Hello, I'm Jake Flores. That's Anders J. Leap.
Anders J. Lee here, calling in from the McGrain Lee Studio, St. Paul, Minnesota, in my parents' bed.
In your parents' bed.
I'm in my parents' bed. I was sitting on the floor for the last episode, but my mom was like, no, sit on the bed. So I'm messing up their covers and stuff, but I guess the comfort will make my my performance better.
Make yourself some pizza rolls. You can sit in our bed and record your little pod show, and you can watch cable TV until midnight. Hey, there's a picture of you behind you. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, that's a little. The YouTube people can see it. It's me kind of. I look like I'm in a. This is in the '90s. It was taken. I guess I look like I'm doing a pose of a musician from the '90s. Also,
You're standing like Bruce Springsteen kind of, but you are a munchkin with a orange bowl haircut and
yeah.
black pajamas, as if you have been pulled into the Khmer Rouge. It's a little
It's.
alarming.
I'm wearing sweatpants and a corduroy shirt. It's hard to see, but that was my look back then, I guess.
You look like you're doing Pol Pot's bidding to me, but a likely story. It's corduroy. Okay, fair enough. They didn't have corduroy. You definitely weren't torturing secrets out of the Viet Cong or whatever at 8 years old or whatever here in Minnesota. I know what you were up to, Child Anders.
I was 2 in that picture, but I'm flattered that I look so large.
I have no idea how old any child is between the age. I almost said 10. As a 2-year-old child. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God.
They're all the same to me, man. Look, that's how little I think about children, all right? All right? You fucking freaks out there. I don't even want to know how old your damn kid is. I got no interest in them. That is
that's how not creepy you are.
I was off by 6 years. Yeah, that's how not a pedophile I am, is that I don't even fucking know, because they're all underage to me, officer. They're under 18. They might as well be 2. That's 18-year-old Anders in that picture, as far as I'm concerned. It's being sent off to war to fight for the Khmer Rouge.
Yeah, that happened. That'd be a fun draft. They should have done that.
I can't believe it's 2. I can't believe that's how off I was.
Yeah, I also got to take this picture down of my very private sibling.
Oh yeah, that could be in the 3 people who watch our YouTube show.
We're doxing, yes, the sibling of Anders on the stream. No, I'm here for family medical reasons, and I'm staying in my parents' apartment in St. Paul. And I keep seeing, this is such an odd sight that I've been seeing basically every night, which is St. Paul has become kind of a destination for like people to move since I left here, who are like athletically inclined. I've noticed this. There's a few people like this when I was younger, but now there's a lot more like professionals, people who work in, I assume, software. I don't know actually if there are many software companies here. I just assume that people look like this do that. But there's a guy in athletic wear who I see every night speed walking in his athletic wear with a gigantic book. Like it's, what's that cartoon with the guy with all the books or the scrolls or whatever? It's like one of those giant books from a cartoon. It's enormous, and he's walking around and reading it while walking. I almost want to like report him to the authorities, because there could be he could like kick a baby or something like that accidentally. What is going on with it? Do you have any thoughts on why someone would do this?
Why someone would walk around with a large, what does he have? A lot of books, you said, or a scroll?
It's a giant book, a
Okay.
gigantic book.
Okay. For some reason, I was picturing scrolls while you were talking. Like
Well,
he's
no, it's because
like a
it made me
wizard.
think of this is terrible content right now, but I made me think of a movie from the 90s where a kid has a really giant book. Do you remember what I'm talking? Like it's a Disney movie.
Yeah, the Never-Ending Story where he dives into the book.
That's I think a different one. There's like a live. Anyway, I'll look it up, but please continue.
No, okay. No, this is not terrible content, Anders. We're comedians. Our job is to talk about 90s movies. The damn kids love it. Even when I say the damn kids, I mean other people that are approaching 40 love talking about what it was like to be a 90s kid. We're old now, millennials.
Yep.
But giant book, I don't know. You're kind of that feels like it should be a thing, and I can't conjure up who the hell has a giant book, but it seems like it would be a cool character. I think you're thinking of Janine Garofalo doing alt comedy in the 90s to now era. She's known for having a giant like notebook that she reads out of. She made alt comedy a thing partially by eschewing the tradition of having to memorize your jokes, which I agree is fucking stupid. I don't like the artifice of stand up. Just bring a big fucking scrawly wizard scroll up there and read your ideas off of it. Who gives a shit? Then that creates new opportunities for improvisational thought on stage. Even the kids know it. And by kids, I mean other 40-year-olds. We all know it. We all love Janine Garofalo. But I have no idea why someone like that would move to Minnesota. I don't know what the socioeconomic reasons for that are, what's going on with the economy there, why bibliophiles would be moving to the Midwest to, I don't know, to do something to counteract Dearborn. No, that's Michigan. That's not even Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of nerds.
Confused. They're often confused. They're both M states in the Midwest, and they have. I realized this the other day here. They have different accents. People assume they're the same, but there are subtle differences. In a way, they're very different. If you combine them, though, the Minnesota accent, the Michigan accent, you get the Canadian accent, just broadly construed Canadian accent. Because in Michigan, they say things like, I don't want to say they don't pronounce things like against, like Canada, but it's almost to the level of against. It's like they have a slight weird affectation because it's very close to Canada. Most of Minnesota is really not. We really don't interact with Canada at all, unless you're like up on the northern border. In Michigan, it's a whole, like they're right in there with each other, kind of necking and making out.
I thought you were going to say Wisconsin. That also seems like it's in the mix. That weird way of speaking up there.
I mean,
ever since I started watching, like, that.
Well, I a lot of people will be mad at me saying this from both Minnesota and Wisconsin. They are basically the same state. Like the accents are pretty. There's maybe some subtle differences you can notice here and there. The Wisconsin accent's maybe a little more nasal, but culturally, they are quite similar. And it pains me to admit that because I hate their teams and but it's kind of the same place, to be honest.
Ever since I started watching like Letterkenny and Shoresy and that shit, I have kind of a grasp of the Canada like shit kicker accent, which is very funny because it's got all these like short vowels and stuff where they're like yelling at you and they're angry, but they're like not so fast. Like everything, words just hit a brick wall really, really quick like that, and it's fun, but it's all very alien to me. To answer your question, though, let's go back to this guy walking around with a huge book. I walk around a lot with I'm a Libby addict now. I fucking can't believe how many dumb books I got via Audible and paid for that shit when you could just use your library card and get free books basically with Libby. And it has been making me realize that it is the digital version of as if I was walking around with a big stack of books all the time. That would be the only way to do what I do before technology made it to where I can constantly be covertly reading when people don't know it. I'm like the guy in the meme. They don't know I'm reading homage to Catalonia right now
Yes.
at the party, and they're like, yes, we do, Jake, we don't care, you won't stop talking about it and all of the mundane facts about what it was like to be in the various factions in the Spanish Civil War, which is actually a revolution, not a civil war. Very important part of that book is that he talks about how the actual revolutionary nature of it was obscured by calling it a civil war, much like how things are called wars now when they're not actually.
Interesting.
If you never read it, it's quite interesting. Orwell's a fascinating character to me because he's one of those people that like every American thinks agrees with him. Like Republicans are often invoking him and talking about 1984 and stuff as if it was because it's somewhat anti-authoritarian, as if it is left in general. I watched the 1984 movie years ago and had read the book in high school or whatever, but in the book in 1984, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. I kind of want to ask you about this if you know anything about this, because it's kind of crosses over some DSA lore, but the evil authoritarian thing in 1984, its logo is like the DSA logo. It's like a
Really?
It's like a hand, clasping a what's the word I'm looking for? A rose.
Oh, yeah.
And
wow.
I honestly, I think one year, I'm sorry if she's listening, call him to blow up my mom's spot here. One year I was at home for the holidays. My mom kind of put it on because she was worried about this left thing I was doing.
Oh, really? What? He was trying to deprogram you?
I think she was like, oh my God, did my child go and become a radical communist? Which answers yes. But she just happened to throw it on. Have you ever seen this movie? And then we watched it. And I kind of had the whole time I was thinking is she trying to am I supposed to learn something from the movie about, the dangers of radical politics or whatever? And it was very funny though, because I was like, yeah, that's the DSA logo.
Yeah, that is very on the nose. Good thing she didn't see the logo and start freaking out.
Well, I think she did. I think it was the point. I don't know. I never asked her about it because I was like, whatever, who cares? I'm freaking. And I love my mom. We yell about politics at each other all the time. It's not really, but it's a funny having different opposing points of views from having lived through different parts of history and stuff. But it brings me back to Orwell, right? And so I feel like homage to Catalonia is a good key to understanding his actual perspective and why he made these other stories that are wildly misconstrued and stuff and made out to be pro-capitalist in that they are specifically anti-authoritarian in certain ways because he was fighting with the anarchists in the Spanish Revolution / Civil War, and in that revolution the communists, the ones that were the actual of the era communists, as in tied to Stalin in Russia and connected to that project, were not really good. They were counter-revolutionary, even though they were still fighting against the fascists. There's a factional split between the Communist Party and the anarchists, in that the anarchists wanted a revolution and the communists wanted because they were allied with the Spanish liberal government, they didn't. And it's confusing if you're having a good time being a leftist.
The Stalinists were allied with Franco?
No, they were allied with the liberal government. That was
right. Okay, I see.
So there's a popular front kind of thing going on,
right?
And what's confusing is Orwell's, he's a pretty good guy. Communists, right? We generally this era, usually, except for a few notable, missteps and stuff like that. That's on the right side of history. But I don't know. I was just reading a chapter today, or listening to a chapter actually, about where he kind of breaks all this down, and I thought it was very interesting because he talks about how the Communist Party, where they were at in the 1930s, if they were allied with a state that was a liberal state, they would not try to foment a revolution. They would de facto be in support of the state because they still needed to trade and stuff like that with states like France and Spain. And the way that they papered over this contradiction was by producing propaganda that said, like in the case of Spain, win the war now so we can have a revolution later. And that was how to justify counter-revolutionary shit and sort of like setting up a situation where capitalism would definitely be imposed once the war was won. I don't know. So that helps me unlock a little bit of that, because it's always been very confusing to me, because like, you know, people have their factions in the left, and they really there's like a lot of stuff that just gets sort of like talked past and not really explained, because it's kind of a black eye if you're a big ML, you know, if you love the Communist Party, to talk about this, what happened in Spain, because they weren't really in that situation the good guys. They weren't the bad guys either, but it's not really a great look at that moment in time, you know, for authoritarian communism. That was big anarchists were the heroes there.
Well, wasn't there a scenario, and this is just a thing I remember reading somewhere that I've kept in my back pocket to argue with anarchists, but wasn't there a moment in which they could have formed a worker state of some kind, and the anarchists refused because it was a state, and then the Trotskyists, or the non-Stalinist socialists, were like, hey, let's form the worker state, and the anarchists were like, no, and then that's also kind of where it started to fall apart.
I'll have to tell you next week when I get to that part of the book, here on the new part of the show I'm doing, which is Reading Rainbow with Jake. Radical Reading Rainbow. Take a look. It's in a book.
A giant freaking book.
Yeah, there you
go. Which, by the way, I figured out the movie, The Page Master.
Oh, that sounds...
Remember that one?
No, but that sounds very cool.
Yeah, this makes me want to do something, which I've actually heard is bad for your mental health. I remember listening to a meditation podcast where they're saying that it is quite literally cope, and bad for your brain to watch content from your childhood too much. I think a little bit is fine. I'm gonna state that, but this does make me want to watch it again, because I haven't seen it in 30 years or something. But
that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Have you seen? I saw the TV Glow, because it kind of talks about that.
I have, yeah. Yes, I guess I can see that connection there. But the Page Master, there's this giant book. It's not as big as I remembered it, and it's actually there's book characters. There's anthropomorphic books, and Macaulay Culkin becomes a cartoon.
I was thinking it's how there's like in medieval times there was like a page boy, but it's the ultimate page boy. He's like huge and he's got the haircut. He's the Page Master. That'd be a cool show.
Would be Macaulay Culkin. Would be like he's an adult page boy for sure.
He kind of is.
Yeah. But these books are big. They're like people books, and I think maybe that's what this guy is reading or has on him, is a book with a personality, and he's talking to it. That he's like paid for. It's like a tech thing, and also a nostalgia thing. He's probably a chuggy millennial tech person who is paid.
Oh my god, the Page Master book is telling me that Hitler had a lot of good ideas, and it would be epic if he came back and killed all the... Oh my god.
I think he is paid $18,000 for a grok book that is also his friend, that he walks around with for exercise.
Every time he gets into an argument, he's like, book, is this true?
But
can't think for himself anymore.
But if you having a book, man, I have a Kindle now, and it's great because you totally do away with the whole complex people have, because it's, everyone likes to show off what book they're reading, but then you feel self-conscious. Am I showing this off too much? And this totally to bypass. You don't even have to think about it. You just pull up a little black thing. Nobody knows what the hell you're reading. You can be reading Mein Kampf for all they know.
And you are. So I hear.
And also talking to it. But This guy seems like somebody. Maybe he's from here. I don't know. I'm doing my like proprietary St. Paul guy thing. Even though um, I once moved here as a 12-year-old, and this is something a trend I've noticed that I've yet to really hear a good explanation for. I moved to Minnesota with my family from Northern Virginia in 2003, and this happened. I've talked about this on the show before. We moved there like a year after Paul Wellstone died, who was the senator who did,
Wellstone.
yeah, Wellstone, his exclamation point signs. Um, he was from Arlington, Virginia. He grew up there. And now you have the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, who is just the quintessential one of these people
He's a page
who
boy.
he's definitely a page boy. He looks like Macaulay Culkin and comes from Northern Virginia and is one of these people who has and I remember that when I was in college in New York, I remember meeting somebody, this young woman, and I said, I'm from Minnesota, the Twin Cities. And she's like, oh, I have such a crush on Minneapolis.
On
I
the
was like,
city?
oh, yeah.
Oh.
And I asked her, like, oh, you, okay, you've been there or you like visiting? She's like, oh, no, I've never been. I just,
That's
I,
weird. It's
I
like that
think
maybe
it's,
lady that married a bridge.
yeah. I don't know if it's that far. I think it's just like she read about it. She saw an Instagram post or something about it, and it looked cute. And people, for whatever reason, not most people, right? Because the weather is pretty rough. But if you're into that, if you're an outdoors type of person, you don't mind the winters. You come to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that is what the mayor did of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. But he came from, again, Northern Virginia. There's some kind of chain migration happening from what my family did, other people do, including the guy who may very well unseat Jacob Fry, as they call him in the activist communities in Minneapolis, Mayor Gentrification, because
Ooh.
he's very much like a YIMBY in all the worst ways.
Mm.
And he's being challenged by this guy, Omar Fatah, who is a Somali American guy originally from, you guessed it, Northern Virginia. There's something going on. I don't know what it is,
Mm.
but it's true for myself and 3 politicians. And 2 of them are good, including Omar, who today, the day we're recording, got the endorsement of the Minneapolis DFL, the Democratic Farmer Labor Party,
I
which is,
saw.
yeah, it doesn't mean it. There's weird like specificities with Minnesota politics. It does not mean he has the nomination, but it certainly helps, and it's a big deal. They also, at this convention, which I was not able to go to, um, for social distancing reasons, but they passed a BDS resolution, which I am not aware of any other Democratic Party in America that has done that, a BDS resolution.
This is the
Um,
DFL.
the Minneapolis DFL, yeah,
Okay, I see.
which is it's a pretty big deal. I remember going to the caucus in 2010 for, I think it was for the endorsement for gubernatorial, and there's a woman who spoke on behalf, basically BDS. She proposed BDS, and she was just, and I was like the only person who raised my hand. I was like, yeah, we should do that. She was like talking about all the bonds Minnesota has in the state of Israel, which wind up being pretty substantial. Like a lot of states and some cities having direct investments in the
Right.
state of Israel.
There's a guy in the back who thought you were talking about BDSM and bondage, and he was like, "Yes, I'll vote for that."
Yeah.
And then, he walked,
Yeah, that's
slowly exited when he realized he was in the wrong building.
right. He embarrassedly put his giant book over his face and then walked into a wall.
Yep.
Eventually found his way out. But point being, 15 years ago, this was a extreme fringe issue, but there were still people bringing it up at these like caucus meetings and stuff. And now it is the official stance of a major city's Democratic Party, essentially. So that's and I think I've talked to a couple people here. I remember when I was here in May, and I talked to a couple people who were like, "Yeah, Omar, I'm going to vote for him. Seems like a good guy. I don't like Jacob Fry. He's, like, best of luck. He's not going to win
Fryman.
though."
That's what, if I lived in Minneapolis, I would yell, "Hey, Fryman," at him like Carl from Aqua Teen every time I saw him. That would be
They
my
should,
sign
yeah.
at the protest. It'd be I dress like Carl, the wife beater and the gold chain. It'd be like, Fryman's got to go.
Fata should try that, honestly. But
He's good, right? I saw like people
yeah.
making Zoran comparisons. About
Yes.
this guy. This is the
Yes.
movement. It's socialist mayors.
Right.
They will continue until morale improves.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Is just a few months ago, I talked to a couple people that are like he doesn't have a chance. Jacob Fry's got this thing locked up. He's already won re-election once, and the Minneapolis bourgeoisie likes him. The homeowners like him, but that's Zoran was in a similar position, and when he launched in October, even before the presidential election, it was like nobody knew who he was, who was like a big anyone who was like a big shot in New York politics didn't really think twice about Zoran, especially Andrew Cuomo, and now he's on track to be the mayor. And I think Fata has a good chance too, and I'm sure we'll be covering that race, interviewing some local folks about that. Very exciting.
I was at a bar the other night, and there was a dude of undiscernible Middle Eastern esque ethnicity hanging out, and another guy. And he had like his hair parted to one side, and a funny drunk guy within earshot. I heard him go like, "Look at this New York City mayor guy over here." He's calling him Zoran as a joke. So Zoran energy's reached the West Coast. It's become enough to where random drunk guys at bars will jokingly, insultingly bust your balls by calling you Zoran. I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I guess it's a good it's a good
You couldn't remember
sign.
his name. He was like, look at this fucking New York City socialist mayor guy over here. But still, I'm gonna call it a win.
It's honestly better than probably however he would have pronounced it, because it's all over the place. The Trump press secretary called him Zamdami, which at first I was like, yeah, at first I was like, what the God, what a terrible, she's an idiot. But then I remembered like, oh, her boss likes to intentionally pronounce people's names wrong. So she probably practiced that because she knew she was going to be asked. She's like, what's the most diminutive way I can say Zoran Mamdani?
Or she just repeated it from him saying it or something.
Yeah. But you know who else can't pronounce Mamdani is Andrew Cuomo, who announced this week he is sticking in it. Which, he was
Don't say it like that.
I mean, you can't, him saying sentences about him just lends itself to creepy stuff like that.
I'm not pulling out again.
Yeah. he said he wants to touch more young people in this go round.
Because finish in it and touch a lot of young people.
Yeah, that's what he. Did you see this video where he's trying to ape Zoran style, and thus the style of our boy Donald Bornstein, Stein. But he does this video outside where there's no music, and he's hired a camera crew.
I did
some generational trader. There's some millennial with a Carhartt jacket and like a carabiner. With keys, who's filming Cuomo's stuff, and it just does not click.
They got to knock off Donald.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've said this because, like, there's probably an evil Donald who is like Bizarro Donald, and I guess has blonde hair and is just bad at cinematography. Because if you look at the way this thing is posted, it like Cuomo's, before you click on the video, the head of Cuomo is just cut off. So it's just like most of his body without his head. And that's like something you're supposed to you know, you have a team for that to post on social media. No, you know, that's something I would do. You know,
Yeah.
that's not what you're supposed to have for a mayoral campaign. But man, some of these videos, he in the first round of ones they shot, he's on the Upper East Side, right by his daughter's apartment that he commandeered and made her go to Brooklyn. Um,
I
and
mean, you're in your parents' bed right now. Whom amongst us,
I
right?
that's right.
We are all Andrew Cuomo in some ways.
I was gonna say you don't see my folks running for mayor of St. Paul, but it's not too late. Actually, I think the deadline may have passed, but that would be interesting. He is outside on the Upper East Side. He's saying he's gonna do things differently this time, but he's also in the neighborhood that he lives in that is like his base. Like he's not eventually he went out to he calls it the Rock, Staten Island. But in those first couple of videos, he has this white button-down shirt on. It's a short sleeve shirt. And there's a lot of people saying it's too small. I won't go that far. I don't think it's quite too small, but it is definitely I think it's intentional because this is another thing people pointed out that he's lost weight since he launched this primary campaign because he's very, you know, vain and narcissistic
Yeah.
and he that's what's important to him.
He's
And
on
in
Ozempic
this
for sure.
yeah, oh yeah. But in this these first couple of videos, he's got this tight-fitting white shirt on that's kind of showing off a little bit of the Cuomo muscle, and it looks really weird. But he thinks it's hot, and you can tell he's like trying to be sexy, which is why he drives around like the muscle cars and stuff. But there's the second video is him just fixing is his he's giving a boost to this guy's car in on the I guess it's on the Upper East Side, and he's so constricted by the tight shirt that you can tell he doesn't want to move too much, or that like the shirt's just gonna like the buttons are just gonna pop off, and
Yeah.
he's gonna be naked.
His nipple
Unless
rings
that
will be
was
exposed.
yeah, I mean, maybe that was his plan, is that he'll just be, like, standing there shirtless, and then, they'll get a discourse generated on that, and the homosexuality will come back, is what he really wants.
Oh,
Um,
oops, I accidentally did a nip slip. It's like on purpose.
yeah.
'Cause he thinks that's gonna somehow win him some voters. I don't know.
Although, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, the nipple rings are I have it on pretty good authority, they are real. So
Yeah, no, Deep Throat told you. I remember. It's funny. Like our friend Donald Boringstein. Did I say that right? We know the person who like did the fucking video and media stuff for Zoran, and they've been very humble online about the role they played because naturally I think a lot of people are attributing a lot of the success to their very successful approach in media. And so they're like said, if you read their stuff, it's all like, oh, you know, it was about organizing and stuff, which is like fucking true to some extent, but they're being humble because they're a nice person. I think they fucking killed it. Those videos look really good, and that was definitely a hallmark, and that's part of politics and campaigns and stuff like that. It's not the whole story, but it's effective, right? When something has a good aesthetic in fucking electoral politics. And I noticed, like, with this video you're talking about, these videos that like Cuomo is doing now, you know, whenever something is effective in the world of politics, especially if a fucking leftist does it, then every establishment politician apes the aesthetic thing they did. And there's all these questions flying around of like, how did Zoran, why do people like Zoran so much? And it's anything to avoid the actual reason people like the idea of having their rent frozen and shit like that, right? So like it's infuriating because you're like, you fucking know the answer is that he has policy that's going to be like for the working class and not for these big donors and stuff like that. But obviously they know that and they don't want to do it, so they start to ape these little details. Like I was thinking years ago, back when she was good, or at least before everything happened and people the perception was that she was good, AOC would make these videos where she's like talking to the front facing camera in her kitchen and like chopping vegetables and putting them in an instant pot and stuff and like cooking. And every goddamn politician in the country that month did one of these videos. They were all awkward. They all set them up wrong and shit, and like didn't know how to use a fucking rice cooker or whatever. And it was like, why do I gotta watch Mike Huckabee like make peeling potatoes now? Like, God, fucking this idiots. People liked her because she said she was gonna do good things, right? Why do you have to ape these things? That's why you're getting now this slew of every politician, especially in this race and in mayor's races. They're all gonna do Donald-esque walking and talking videos with like the color grading in a certain way or whatever, or they're gonna attempt that without knowing how to do it. That's what this is. And it's like, bro, New York City didn't wake up and come out in droves because they like the way the video looks. It's, bigger than that. But unfortunately, we're all going to be subjected to it. There are going to be people studying his body language, what kind of coats he wears and stuff. How do I look like Zoran? And we're going to have to watch. I don't even know what Eric Adams is going to do. I was going to say he's going to part his hair to the side. He doesn't have any fucking hair. Maybe he'll get a toupee. That'd be cool.
I heard he is, and I'm not kidding. I heard he is from him. He said he is going to be redoing the room check video where he said he's going to do like an updated version. I don't know if it's going to be like a self parody or what, but
Anders Lee, get out of my room.
Yeah.
There
could be brochureless podcasters in your bedroom. Your home is a sanctuary.
He could be hiding drugs in the little picture of his 2 to 10-year-old self. Who knows? Is he 2 or is he 10? Who knows? My favorite part of the fucking New York mayor's race right now, though, just to interject here, is Sliwa, obviously, the guy, the fucking Republican candidate. He unfortunately dropped a fucking banger of a line this week, which is that he decided to chime in. And he's talking about how Eric Adams is corrupt and, there's one scandal after another, right? Which is true. And it's funny, he's Curtis Sliwa is the perpetual fucking final boss of the New York mayor's race. He's 1 HP, but you have to fight him, He's never going to do anything where he colludes with like the fucking MAGA people who are kind of pro Eric Adams, right? For a minute I thought maybe he'll just throw his weight behind the right wing guy who's actually kind of in the race. He doesn't like Cuomo. He was talking about Cuomo and he dropped a banger. Unfortunately, you do have to hand it to him. He said in typical political psychopath perennial candidate fashion, something that rhymes. He said Andrew Cuomo, he's slapping fannies and killing grannies is how he put it. It's so good because those are succinctly the two things that everyone knows that are scandalous about him, is that he is a sexual harasser and killed a bunch of old people. But when you put it like that, you gotta admit it's fucking fire.
Yeah,
a lot going on underneath that red cap.
I actually see a path for Sliwa. Not that I think he's going to win, but there's a lot of people saying there's absolutely no chance whatsoever. And I think, I don't want to get too cocky, but I think Zoran has it in the bag. But if we're talking about scenarios where he does not win, I really don't see them succeeding by consolidating behind one person. That seems like a flawed idea from the start. Which try whatever you want. I think we can fight you off. But the two problems with that theory that we have to consolidate behind whoever is best positioned to take on Zoran, which is unclear what they even mean by that, what Cuomo means by that when he says that, because polling is now like a non-factor, supposedly, because it was so inaccurate for the primary. But the reasons I don't think it would work is because, number one, it assumes that all of the voters from, say, Adams or Cuomo or Jim Walden, who's I think a guy we've talked about, a lawyer who's running as an independent, and is like a moderate, that it assumes that all of those votes will not go to Zoran, which there was a lot of people who ranked Zoran number one and then Cuomo number two, and vice versa. People are all over the place. A lot of those votes, if somebody says, I'm no longer running, many people will say, okay, well, then I'm going to vote for the guy, the young guy.
That's true.
And then it also won't work because their name, no matter what they say, their names will be on the ballot come November. So they may say I'm dropping out, but it won't really affect it because people may not pay that close attention and still vote for them. But
Yeah.
I think if we're talking about scenarios where Zoran loses, there's all these different candidates, and the vote is going to be like splintered 5 ways. So if you're Curtis Sliwa, you don't actually have to win that much of a plurality to take it. If there's 4 other guys running and they're splitting the vote citywide, maybe he only needs like 24% or whatever it is, and that's enough. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think we should sleep on really any of these guys, but Sliwa included. I think Adams, if it's safe to say, is not going to be reelected, but I hope I don't eat my words on that either.
I think that you should have to fight Curtis Sliwa is how you should win the mayorship. He seems like a Street Fighter boss, like one of the guys. Well, I was gonna say one of the guys before M. Bison, but he's dressed like M. Bison, the final boss of Street Fighter. So that's it. It's there's no real Vega in the race, I don't think.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, no, Vega's like a Spanish coded person, and there's not. I was thinking Cuomo's Italian, but it's not the same thing.
Is Vega not an Italian name? Isn't there a? I feel like they're Italian Vegas.
Vega is the guy who climbs on the wall. There's like a chain link fence behind him, and he jumps all over it. And he's very much dressed like a matador. So I want to say he's Spanish in origin. And then Balrog is just Mike Tyson, but they had to rename him, which is why M. Bison is called M. Bison, because actually originally the black boxer you fight was M. Bison because he was a stand-in for Mike Tyson. But for like legal reasons, they had to switch all the names around and go, no, that's Balrog. And so they all got switched around. But anyways, Eric Adams is definitely the Balrog of the situation. And I guess that does make Cuomo Vega. Yeah. So good luck, Zoran Mamdani, as you round out the end of the Street Fighter run you're on. You will face, in order, according to this theory, Andrew Cuomo, who has the power to climb on the wall, the chain link fence, and has a one claw hand of like knives on a hand, but you can knock it off if you hit him hard enough. And then Eric Adams, who you just got to look out for his very, very powerful right hooks and jabs.
And his shiny head. He can grease that thing up and blind you.
Well, I think the strategy if you're fighting Balrog / Eric Adams is you hit him in the head. Jump over the punches, hit him in the head. That's his weak spot. And then Curtis Sliwa, obviously, and Bison, you got to be careful because he can fly across the screen like a Superman-esque move very fast and uses his charge power-up attacks. There's a reason he's the final boss.
I see. By the way, Vincent Vega is who I was thinking of, and that's the John Travolta's character from Pulp Fiction.
Who is Zoran in Street Fighter? Have you played Street Fighter at all?
It's been a long ass time, but
I want to say he's just. I think he's just Ryu. He's the main character. He's got Ryu-esque hair and vibes. Ryu when he has the black gi on, not the white one, because Zoran always wears black. And in the older videos of him, he's kind of got the more Arab get up on. It does look very Ryu-esque. Listen, somebody out there who's a talented graphic designer, please come up with this. I swear to God, it's going to tip the fucking race.
What is the more Arab get up? What does that mean?
That was a really bad way of putting it. But have you ever seen like the older clips of him where he's like wearing kind of I don't know what it's fucking called. I'm not Arab, but I'm like butchering this or whatever. But he's wearing like these like longer kind of robes and shit. When he was like,
I would call it. I think you're safe calling it Muslim garb. I don't know if I'd call it Arab garb, but that's just me.
Is it Muslim?
Yeah, I mean he's not Arab. He's Desi.
Oh, right, and an African American. Okay, fair enough.
But
well, whatever it is, hey man, it's a great look, and it makes him look like Ryu when you press to change his color scheme.
And maybe Andrew Cuomo should start wearing that.
That'd be cool.
Instead of the tight-fitting white shirts. And it could maybe help him with his skills of seduction. Did you see this come out from Karen Hinton? The Cuomo campaign, of course, is denying this vehemently, but there was this woman who has worked in politics and wrote kind of a tell-all book a few years ago entitled Penis Politics, a memoir. A memoir. It's not a continuation of Puppetry of the Penis, by the way. It's its own standalone work. But
I'm involved in something called penis real politics. It's my philosophy for getting laid. It's like, look, it's just got to happen.
I see.
It
Yes,
might be against
okay.
both of our beliefs, but it's like the best that'll happen, you know.
It's it's got to, but it's consensually, of course. But speaking of speaking of consent, that is important, and you can practice penis real politics and respect that. That is not what Andrew Cuomo respects, according to Karen Hinton. She saved this gem for this election. Cuomo was comforting an older woman, a woman in her 70s, whose son he knew and was having trouble. And he went to visit her and said, "Please, let me make things easier for you, at least for a few minutes." And he drops down onto his knees, takes her shoes off, and starts massaging them.
Whoa.
And this old woman in her 70s says, "Please stop." And
He's
then
like, have you ever
eventually-
seen From Dusk Till Dawn? He starts pulling out various things to drink off this old woman's foot.
Yeah, that would. I bet he has a foot fetish. It would not surprise me.
He said, it sounds like his every fetish is what's going
Yeah.
on with him.
Right. And honest, and the worst fetish of all, which is the humiliation and or not necessarily the not respecting boundaries fetish is something
Yeah.
which unless you arrange something where in advance you should
Wow, Anders.
not
Yeah,
but-
no, it's safe to say that the people involved in Andrew Cuomo's world are not into consensual non-consent, which is what you're describing.
Yes. Yes.
In fact, I wouldn't describe what's going on with him as a fetish at all. That's actually kind of what is the important distinction, is that he's an actual abusive person, not a harmless, lovable pervert as our Quentin Tarantino's. Well, okay, maybe he's not a good example. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him, but don't lump in people that just want to fuck feet with Andrew Cuomo is what I'm getting at. They're fine, upstanding members of society. A lot of them are here.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't even know if it is a foot thing, because he starts, according to Hinton, he starts moving his hands higher from her feet onto her calves and above her knees, thighs, under the dress. And she says, "Stop, Andrew. I don't know what you're thinking, but stop. You should leave now." And then he says, "Well, that didn't mean what you thought it meant," which I don't know. I definitely believe this or something like it took place, because he's crazy enough to just want to. It's like a challenge to him. It's like I bet I could seduce this 70-something woman, but disgusting guy.
That's just how Italians say hello to 70-year-old ladies, is what he was going to tell us.
Yeah, right. But New York politics, broadening it out on a global, national level. Of course, there's big fracas controversy over Miss AOC's. I've never called her that before, Miss AOC.
Miss AOC, if you're nasty.
Yeah.
Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous unks.
She is in hot water with people on our corner of the internet for her vote against, as the Canadians would say, the amendment from Marjorie Taylor Greene, which would have eliminated aid to the Iron Dome system in Israel. And I've, of course, listeners know I was on the defending AOC train for a long time, and then I left it mostly because of the Palestine issue, in which she just seems determined to confuse everybody. Which, in fairness, it is like we were describing earlier. The political terrain on this has changed quite dramatically, quite quickly. So she, in her mind, maybe she's making some calculation, but I think it's dumb because it's just confusing. She's trying to have it every which way to everybody. It's similar to, a lot of journalists will say if they write a story that makes liberals and conservatives mad, they'll be like, oh, well, I must have, done a good job. But
yeah, it's a really good way to cope with having done a really bad job.
yeah,
You got nothing out of this. No one likes what you have to say, and it's a good way to cope with that is to paint yourself as some sort of incredibly subversive heretic by having done so, which is possible even. But 99% of the time in cases like this, it is not what's happening. It's just what someone's reaching for to try to explain their very bizarre strategy. And that's like my kind of take with her is or at least the most the most flattering apologetic kind of explanation for this that you could make if you were trying to fucking paint this as anything but just complete flat out utter disdain for everyone involved, is that it's a strategy on some level, that it is realpolitik on some level, but it doesn't make any fucking sense because she's not getting any AIPAC money. There's this AIPAC tracker account that shows you who gets a lot of money from AIPAC, and I mean it's useful to know these things. They were Cory Booker fucking earlier this year, liberals and shit were trying to portray as some kind of he's gonna be the next guy or whatever. He was January's most donated politician. Both parties.
Did you see that photo of him, by the way, with Netanyahu?
Yeah, where he's hiding behind a tree or whatever.
It's so funny.
It's gonna be in history books. Garbage. But AOC and Bernie they're not getting AIPAC money, and yet they still kind of do these things. And I think that tells you kind of part of the story here. It's kind of interesting actually that Zionism functions in ways more complex than just buying up politicians, because that's obviously a big mechanism of it. That's a good reason to be looking at all this stuff. We all fucking hate AIPAC, but it's kind of incredible that even outside of that system there are incentives in place that will kind of lead politicians to do stuff like this. And I say incentives because I'm trying to make sense of the situation. There's always the case that these people are particularly just assholes, which I think is it just bothers me because I'm looking for reasonable, rational explanations for why this stuff happens. And I don't think that is a good one. I think it's emotional. It's a cop out. It's a story that we tell ourselves because it feels good when we're like, what a fucking dick, Yeah. But it's either that she really has some sort of specific disdain for, Palestinians, or she really is some kind of true believer Zionist, or that there's something systemic going on here on some level. And I don't know. It's politics. I don't fucking know enough about this. I don't obsess over it. I kind of just go, okay, yeah. I believe that some shit is going on here. I don't really need to investigate, honestly. It doesn't really concern me. But there's some reason that she's making these fucking moves. And she's fascinating, honestly, at this point, because I don't know what the fuck it is,
Yeah. Well, I think there are two main reasons. And just to be clear, these are not defenses of her. This is just me explaining what I think the calculus is. I think number one, she doesn't want to give any credence to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wrote the amendments. She doesn't want to give her a W, which, Ilhan Omar voted for the amendment. Rashida Tlaib voted for the amendment. I don't think that makes them MAGA sympathizers.
Right.
You're gonna, Congress, unfortunately, has mostly terrible people in it, and you're gonna have to form common ground with them. That doesn't mean that the movement that brought you in has to start working with MAGA people. But if you're in the government, then you have to work with other people in the government to do government stuff. That's part of the job. And then the other thing I think is she wants to run for something. She wants to run for maybe Senate if Chuck Schumer steps aside or doesn't step aside in 2020. When is that going to be? 2028. Either that or he dies and there's a special election. There's that, maybe president. And for this particular issue, right, she's not gone full, pep because at this point you couldn't, like, it just wouldn't work at all, even for her to just be like, well, now I'm pro-Israel. I'm like John Fetterman, right?
Mhm.
That's the only guy who's really done that, and it hasn't gone very well, along with a lot of other stuff in his life. Uh, but
Yeah.
um, but she thinks of it as, well, this is defensive spending. The Iron Dome is defensive. So hypothetically, I'm already, she's already thinking ahead to the Anderson Cooper town hall where Anderson Cooper and then 10 more. Anderson Cooper is going to ask, why did you vote against Israel defending itself? And she's going to try and give an explanation. And then there's going to be 10 questioners in the audience who are going to ask follow-up questions about that vote, and it's going to be like Zoran right now, who's having to answer for globalize the Intifada, which he
Right.
has sort of walked back his non-condemnation. It's such a convoluted subject at this point. His
Zoran like had some really great moments with answering questions like that.
yeah,
And I think that we should understand with electoral politics and stuff like that, he's standing on the shoulders of I don't even say giants, just experiments like AOC, like seeing
mhm.
a politician take that lane and then make decisions like that. You don't get a Zoran without having a fucking weird AOC thing have happened, so you can observe and then crash or stuff like that. He inevitably will run out of gas though, and then you're already seeing him pull back on stuff like that, and it would be nice. We would like to see him explain what Intifada fucking means and stuff like that. Effectively, he's one guy, so the fact that there is just a faucet of socialist mayors that's been turned on, I think is the real actual story here. Like more and more of these people, you're gonna learn from these fucking politicians' careers and be able to build upon the method or whatever.
Yeah,
He's hopefully he's gonna be better than AOC, but he's still gonna be a politician to some degree.
right. And I would say, and yeah, it's been interesting because there's these two kind of um, responses that a lot of leftists have to electoral politics that I find to be kind of defeatist. Either they will point to the AOC example and be like, "Well, look what happens when you try to run an election; they end up moving to the center," uh, or they're like, "Oh, well, we tried running, Ginger Jensen." I've seen some people say, "I tried, ran really hard in Minneapolis a few years ago, and that didn't work out. Like the one election didn't work, therefore it's all
Yeah.
pointless." Those are kind of the two sort of defeatist responses to this thing. But yeah, there's it doesn't have to be like that. There can be people like Zoran who I would make the point that uh, ex- encouraging people to not use a particular phrase because he doesn't find it very helpful is a big difference between actually voting against and de facto supporting military aid to an apartheid state that's doing a genocide, which
Well, but that divide between rhetorical and voting is actually what AOC kind of was for a long time. Like
yeah,
most of the shit that sucked about her was shit she said, and her
right,
voting record was actually pretty clean up until shit like this happens. And you might make an argument that it's like this happened because of those sorts of concessions building up ideologically over time and having outcomes or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, and
Maybe.
the rhetorical stuff really does matter too. I don't want to say it doesn't, because the what really did it for me was last summer the working tirelessly on a ceasefire
It's pretty
line,
bad.
which
Yeah.
that has a disorganizing effect on the movement that creates chaos and just distrust, and it makes it hard. People aren't going to want to work with you if you're undermining. Yeah, she's directly undermining the uh, the voices of the people who are outside that convention protesting it. But in any case, I did want to explain a little bit of what I learned about Iron Dome, because this is sort of her rationale: is that, well, it's a defensive weapon system, and what are we gonna stop? What are we gonna stop Israel from having band-aids? Like, what are you for killing civilians? These are kind of the straw men that she's anticipating and that she herself seems to have internalized. And um, it is an interesting history, the Iron Dome. It's really only been around for about 15 years or so, started in the early 2010s. And I found out today is a result of a partnership between Israel and Singapore. This was reported in 2010 by an outlet called Intelligence Online, which looks into this sort of thing. And they said that it was reported, summarized in Haaretz, Iron Dome was designed first and foremost for the benefit of Singapore, not for the protection of Sderot and the southern communities in Israel that suffered from rocket attacks and mortar fire. And the system was developed, had only one battery, and had been deployed as an Israel Defense Forces base. Turns out that the Defense Ministry had no budget for additional batteries. In that case, why was there a need to develop a system for which there is no budget and which the IDF does not intend to deploy? So they're developing this technology to really sell and sort of share with Singapore, which has a lot of similarities to Israel. Namely, they both sort of have an attitude that they're under threat from a hostile Muslim population, and they want advanced weapons to just sort of threaten their neighbors who they view as hostile. The fight, really the war on terror, increased cooperation between these two countries, and eventually that we're where we are now, with where Israel is like a highly technologically advanced military that is just has beat the crap out of its neighbors, and is now fighting Iran. We'll see how that goes, but Iron Dome is always touted as this like beacon of military superiority and technology and all the things that make Israel great. But according to the National Post, it's the term Iron Dome itself is a stand-in for Israeli missile defense more broadly. There's a fellow at the Missile Defense Project quoted in this article, Wes Rumbaugh, who compares it to how we use Kleenex to describe every type of facial tissue.
Xerox machine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's 3 tiers of missile defense systems in Israel, and Iron Dome, literally Iron Dome, is like the lowest tier. And it is become popular because it's used whenever there's like a lower tier cruise missile or a rocket. Whenever Hamas just kind of lobs something small at Israel, Iron Dome gets deployed. But with Iran, it's actually other systems. There's one called the Arrow defense missile defense system, or there's one called David's Sling missile system.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
And this is really where our money is going, is to subsidize their war with Iran, because and this, at least $500 million a year, if not more, is going towards missile defense. And the Arrow system right now is being deployed most often against Israel. But as Dylan Saba has written, he's written for Jewish Currents. He wrote this a couple years ago. It was in 2023, but it's before October 7th, and was kind of making a pretty persuasive point that Iron Dome is not a defensive military system. That's kind of a almost an oxymoron. But one of the reasons that someone like AOC should vote against funding it is that it negates the ability of militant groups in Gaza to respond to Israel's incursions. The purportedly defensive Iron Dome allows Israel to strike without fear of repercussion. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you want rockets to be sent into Israel, right? But if they're going to treat Gaza way worse if they know there's no consequences. So that could lead to de-escalation if they have that in the back of their head before they push the button.
Right.
Which, frankly, that's not even going to come up. Like, if we stop funding Iron Dome, it's not like they're going to not have money to fund Iron Dome. So it's like, why can't, and the money that then gets spent on this defensive system frees up more money for Israel to spend on sending troops into Gaza and like kicking in people's heads and shooting babies and stuff, you know.
It's been very hard for me to hear the word Iron Dome so many times without trying to make a joke about getting your dick sucked on some level, and I've gotten
By a
lost
robot?
in a thread. I've got lost in my head the last few minutes or so trying to figure out whether it would be Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, or Curtis Sliwa that would use the term Iron Dome, misunderstand the term Iron Dome into trying to get their dick sucked. And I want to say Cuomo most likely to think it's getting your dick sucked. Eric Adams most likely to say it like that, to just think it's a cool way to say something. And then Sliwa is, he kind of just has he thinks it's like a tactical thing, I think. He's like,
you know who I think would be the most likely to use
but it's
that
a tactical hat for him. Okay, go ahead.
I see. The person I think would be most likely to use it in that connotation is actually Dennis Thatcher, husband of Margaret. If you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. I'm gonna get some Iron Dome tonight. If you catch my drift, boys.
From the
It's good to be a kept man. I don't even have a job.
From the Iron Lady.
Yeah, I gotcha.
In case our listeners didn't get that terrible joke, but there's a quote from an analyst, Nathan Thrall, who says, "In theory, a weapon like Iron Dome could be used only defensively, but in practice, it doesn't work that way. Iron Dome facilitates greater Israeli offensive measures because it lowers the perceived cost to Israel of escalating or extending or initiating attacks. So while it may prevent the deaths of Israeli non-combatants, it has made it easier for Israel to kill Palestinians." And the Rand Corporation, which is, not exactly a friend of the show, they concluded that by lessening the perceived threat of rocket fire, Iron Dome relieved political pressure on senior Israeli leaders to bring the conflict in 2014, which Operation Protective Edge, to a speedy conclusion and allowed for a more deliberate, if slower, operation. So even if the system has prevented other ground invasions, it's unclear that this helps Palestinians in any way, because it's basically allowing the IDF to take their time and do as much damage in Gaza as possible.
Yeah, well, why did this bill come out of Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Like, she's like
Right.
a fringe Republican weirdo. Why is the Rand Corporation making this point? Because there is the split between like traditional, like conservative right here, and then these like libertarian style right-wing people. And they, every once in a while, those people, it's weird. They end up kind of making a point that looks like it parallels with us. It looks almost like similar. It's like, why are they on the same side as us? And you have to be really careful with this stuff. I get it. It's very alarming to me how many people seem to think like, well, it doesn't matter because if the outcome is right, then then who cares why they're doing the right thing? And that is true. In the isolated question of like, should you vote for this bill that Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced? I think that, yeah, if you're a fucking politician, then that's politics, actually, is that you should probably go along with that thing. Maybe on some level, though, the argument in someone like AOC's head is that isn't an isolated thing. When you vote with a Marjorie Taylor Greene, that comes with all these strings attached and stuff like that. That's also part of politics. I don't really think that has legs. Like, why are Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar doing this? Are they are they now beholden to the fucking libertarian right on some level? No, you can just say, I don't want to do this thing next time they want to do something. But it's a little, it is a little weird. And it's like the America First part of the right wing that's gonna land sometimes on issues like like questioning why the fuck we're funding some other country. It's tricky. You have to stay engaged and be critical thinking about this stuff, because if you just go, yeah, great, you're on the same side as us now, we're in a partnership, some bad things are going to come out of that when they actually implement their beliefs and stuff. I don't know. Something I've been thinking about a bit, because I've seen a lot of people just sort of like brush this off as if it's a non-issue. And, David Duke also doesn't like Israel. Like, there's not a good idea to go, well, he's here for the same thing as us, therefore we shouldn't think about this or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, why not give Gaza an Iron Dome? Why not give Iran an Iron Dome? Like, why are
Yeah.
we limiting this just to Israel by AOC's logic? I mean, yeah, I think she's overthinking it, right? Which I'm want to do. Maybe why I'm not a politician, among other reasons. But like, you can't get too caught up in like some question you're going to get in several years from now. And if you do, like, it pays to stick to your guns. And that the open question is, how much do we matter, right? How much does the online left matter? Because there are, as we've talked about on the show, masses of people were going to those anti-oligarchy rallies, and that's a positive thing. So does that then, does this actually matter in the grand scheme of things? I think it could, right? Because people are going to be more likely to want to work on your behalf as volunteers getting elected, and then trying to, in theory, implement the things that you want to accomplish. If you're not constantly like stabbing in the back and making them mad at you,
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I think I go back and forth about this, and I think it's because there's not one. It's both in a lot of ways. It's a dialectical process thing. Like, unfortunately, I think that like the presence that people have online, and one of those groups of people being the online left, it is very real, and it is like not. It would be very reductive to say like the fact that a bunch of fucking people that think about politics in a way that is kind of taboo historically in the United States were able to sort of develop a culture via forums and the internet that led to like Twitter, and develop this left fringe that became more normalized and became a nexus of communication online, and that sort of formed into like an interesting base for stuff like DSA politics and stuff like that. That's it's a little scary because it's like a small amount of people that actually kind of do have some sway. Sometimes people say, hey, Paul, Twitter's not real, like none of this stuff is real. But when you see like successful, like stuff like the Zoran Mamdani campaign, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I know the people who did that. They're fucking people I talk to on Twitter, Obviously they did that by like going and talking to people, but the culture, the meeting group for the water cooler we all meet around, where people talked about how to do that stuff, is online. And I think it would be kind of foolish to discount that and to write that off. No, that literally was like kind of this interesting product of the internet and communication. We do kind of live in a world where that stuff is of real consequence. And so for politicians, it's like, I don't know, but like someone like AOC, this mind-bending person we always fucking talk about, to kind of have like these. I think that you're posing a really good theory here, that this is about her plans in the future and wanting to answer certain questions as a politician and have like not get caught in a gotcha. But I think it's misguided that she might be thinking about like fucking interviews she's going to be doing while she's running for president in this way, not understanding the way that someone like Donald Trump's fucking career has arced, or Zoran in a more authentic left way. I've kind of like not had to be a fake politician about this sort of stuff. And I also don't think that like, should you think about being beholden to the online left? That's too simple of a way of looking at it. Like, we don't really have any accountability over this person. We do exist. We do have outcomes and stuff, but I don't know if like someone like that should be thinking like, oh, am I gonna piss off Jake and Anders, or fucking Rev Left Radio or Tim Faust. Like, that's not exactly how that works. There's a process involved there, but it's not like 1-to-1. So I don't know. I mean, I think AOC is like she's a fucking tragic story that is an outcome of the fact that, we're in new terrain with how the internet plays into all this stuff. And the politicians have, decades and decades and decades of like tricks and rules and logic that they learned in a pre-internet world. And so they're going to tend to stick to them, and they're going to see them kind of not those rules not really be true anymore. I mean, you're gonna have people like Andrew Cuomo go, what the fuck? The polls didn't, they said they were gonna, one thing was gonna happen and something else happened or whatever. And we're in this like new world, and it's a kind of, there's a lot of unknown factors going on. It's a great unknown. So I don't know what I'm trying to say about AOC here, though. Please don't yell at us. We all fucking hate her. I hate politics and politicians. But the vote for the Iron Dome thing, I don't think it's defensible in any way. I do think it's interesting to dissect maybe what her motivations are in the way that you're doing, though. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, why doesn't Gaza have an Iron Dome? What is the logic here? Honestly, I saw someone today, like a pretty big left Twitter account, posing something that kind of looks like a conspiracy theory to me, but I haven't read that much into it, which is that like some of her original boosters in her first campaign, when she fucking unseated what's his face, were like Israeli investors or something. To me, that seems like it's a little tinfoil hatty. Like, it goes all the way back, she's been like a Zionist this whole time or whatever. But there could be some truth to just who she ever gets money from. Like, maybe just from the beginning, it was just some sort of like weird, not AIPAC but Israeli thing, and that sort of just nudged things in a certain direction. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say she's definitely seems more in the like her sort of view on this seems to be kind of like J Street circa 2018, which even back then the political train was much different on Israel Palestine, and opinion has changed quite a bit. There was a poll I saw from 2017 that had vast majority of Democrats sympathized more with Israel. And that has totally flipped since 2023, which is like, okay, that's good, that people are waking up, but it's also pretty depressing that it took like a genocide to get us to that point. But I think, a lot of these sort of people of her ilk, like, she's often pointed to as like a DSA candidate. Nationally, there's no relationship anymore. She's no longer endorsed by National DSA. She's still endorsed by NYC DSA, but overall, she was really more. I mean, she was kind of her own. Like, Justice Democrats was fairly involved in the 2018 primary, but at the end of the day, it was really her is she got elected kind of by. She's often quick to say, which is like that's not ultimately that a good thing, because now she's not. She kind of seems like a bit of a free agent. Bernie's a similar situation. He didn't really get elected with DSA. He's never been a member of DSA. So that I think is an important piece of this, is to have elected officials have like a accountability mechanisms with an actual organization, and not just like, even brought more than the online left, to actually have some kind of expectations that are set up by a membership driven organization, I think is a huge element in sort of electoral politics going forward.
Bernie and AOC saw the 1984 movie, and they saw the clasped hand around the red rose, and they knew that it was going to force them into doing double speak and saying it's double plus good to murder a prole for their victory gin. And that's why they betrayed the DSA. That's my theory.
Amen, brother.
Can we talk about Trump and Colbert a little bit before I get out of here?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Listen, this has got a lot of fun. I'm sure everyone already fucking read the story, but let's just go through it because it's a great time. So, unless you've been living under a rock, there's a letter that Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday in 2003. that I guess has been leaked by like the Wall Street Journal, and now Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal. And I don't know. We don't fuck it. This isn't like we all hate Donald Trump. We all hate AOC. Like, I hope you understand these things are given, so we don't have to keep reminding you. We all hate everyone, all the right people. We don't talk politics that much. This isn't a show where we talk about Trump ad nauseum, because those exist, right? If you want to know stuff about Trump, you can watch up until, I guess, the not too distant future. You could watch Stephen Colbert talk about him, but like, but he's fucking funny. We got to talk about this a little bit. He wrote a really great birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein, and it got leaked, and he's really mad about it. And it, like, I don't want to get a Fell For It Again award by saying like Trump's finally gotten himself into a situation that he can't get out of, because that's the thing that people have said perpetually. There's a famous tweet about it, like, oh, how's he going to wriggle his way out of this one? Nevertheless, right? But it really seems like he definitely, obviously, is in all these Epstein things. He's in the, he's implicated. He's a pedophile and all this stuff. There's hard proof. And he doesn't seem to have a strategy here. He is completely flipped 180 from sort of using Epstein mania and conspiracy theory, culture war stuff to galvanize his base, to realizing that he's about to be exposed and starting to say stuff like it's a Democrat conspiracy theory, it's fake, it's annoying. He's doing like there's a acronym called DARVO, which is like when a narcissist is accused of a thing that they did. It's like deny, accuse. I can't remember what all the letters work for, but if you've ever experienced this, it's the same thing. People do it to me all the time. It's I get a lot of it on Twitter. If you're jealous, you're lying because you're jealous and you're crazy, is like a lot of the things. He's doing all of it. They're crazy. They drink too much, I don't know. He's probably saying that too. But like he's just saying it's like a non-issue, and they're only bringing it up because they're so jealous of him, and he's flat out just calling this not real, this thing that got leaked, but it is so. The details that make this so clearly, obviously real are so funny. He apparently, I'm going to read from the Rolling Stone article I pulled up here. The journal notes that the letter bearing Trump's name was outlined by a drawing of a naked woman, and that the woman appeared to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. Trump's signature as Donald appears below the woman's waist. It's unclear how the text of the letter, which was typewritten, was prepared, according to the journal, yada, yada, yada. The signature, Donald, is the woman's pubes. And it's like, it's so funny because it's like a drawing of a woman's torso. Her boobs are there. There's text over her torso, and then it ends with the signature that's her pubes. And like, let me read you the letter a little bit. It says voiceover. This is really bizarre. The first, it's written like a script. So there's like character and then colon and then what they say. The first one is voiceover, like you're writing an amateur, your first fucking script for a sketch or whatever. Voiceover, there must be more to life than having everything. And then Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Oh, it's so good.
Is that like high school girls keep getting, what is it again? I keep getting older, but high school girls stay the same age.
They say the same age. This is, this is definitely very that moment. But it's more poetic. I don't know. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? And then the outro J-pop music plays on the anime we're watching. Like, it is just so odd. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? And then Jeffrey Epstein goes, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. This Trump, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. That's how it ends. And then the signature, that's the pubes, is at the bottom.
I can't believe I've seen the dialogue, pictures of the dialogue itself, but this is the first time I've seen the full uh, physique that was drawn by Donald Trump, and now I understand what he meant by "I've never drawn a letter." Is that what he said?
Okay, so this is so fucking funny because like this is so clearly him. He said he denied the letter. He said this is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life, which is like remember when he said like everything is computer when he got inside of a Tesla. Like his way of speaking is so funny. I never wrote a picture in my life. Like, who would even think to say it like that? Wrote a picture.
Screenwriter, or someone who's not a screenwriter, I guess, denying
Honestly,
being a screenwriter.
like poetry is kind of like writing a picture, so it kind of works, you know, because this is a
Yeah.
poem of sorts. The thing that makes it work is the way it's laid across the page. You know, that's part of what poetry is. It becomes greater than just the sum of its parts. You know, just verbally. But he says, I never wrote a picture in my life. So you got to kind of, you know, okay, well, he knows what this is and he knows he didn't do it. He goes, it's not my language, not my words. And like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, you could speculate, does he really talk like this or whatever? I think he certainly does. And it's pretty funny, but the signature really gives it away because he has a very distinct signature. Everything he sells, his fucking signature is all over it. And he has a very good signature, oddly. Like, I write chicken scratch. My signature is just when I sign something on the fucking tablet, you know, to tip someone, I just scribble or fucking whatever. He's got a very, like, very finely crafted Donald Trump. Everything's a really high letter in these, like, really, like, kind of like thin, weird cursive letters he does.
Yeah.
And that's how he made the pubes, and it's like nobody fucking faked that. No one else knows how to draw like his signature, you know. Unless
Sure.
I mean,
I'm starting to think maybe I should have just this whole time just been doing X as my because that is a valid legal signature.
yeah,
I've never known
make
anyone
your
who does
mark.
that. Yeah, I guess if somebody's illiterate, typically they do it. But if you just are not illiterate and you want to do it, I guess it makes it easier to defraud you if you're just you doing X because that's easy to knock off.
I don't know. It's kind of circular logic though, because couldn't you be like, hey, this clearly isn't me. I do X. Anyone could just come along and write X. I mean, on some level, this could all because his signature is so ubiquitous. Like I'm saying, someone could have faked this because his fake. But like, also, I want to be one of those people like a cowboy that does like a wax seal. I think that'd be a cool way to do it. But you can't do that on an iPad at Jamba Juice. I don't know. So but he says like the thing is it's always the person who is trying to cover their ass, who is guilty, will always like undo themselves. They'll always be their own demise because you know you could just say like it's fucking not real and move on. But he said I never wrote a picture in my life, and he like has auctioned off tons and tons of doodles. So that caused the fact that he denied it in that way caused people to go, I think this is fake, and look up all these weird things that he's sold over the years. One of them is just tons and tons of things he's drawn, and a lot of them are just like skylines. Like he's really into,
and they're pretty good. Much better than anything I could draw. I'll give him that.
He draws the types of skylines that would be like the behind you at a comedy club, like the thing, like you know,
like it looks a lot like the. Oh, it's all coming together. When Conan, before he got the Tonight Show, his show was a Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Trump would be was a guest on it at least once, and I remember was like sort of seemed to like Conan. I was like, why this seems like an odd match. The skyline in the Conan is old show looks a lot like what Trump drew.
Maybe he sold it to him. Yeah, maybe it goes all the way to the top, man. AOC's involved, and there's Israeli investors and shit. He kind of is like the evil Conan because they're both like really tall and have the weird hair, you know.
He's Scottish. He's Scottish Conan. Instead of being Irish American, he's Scottish American. It makes you fucked up.
There are all like weird clips of him and Conan where he's like saying kind of creepy stuff to whatever. We've all seen them, but like But yeah, so he like that's I think the dead giveaway is that like the drawing style, if you look at his fucking doodles, is like that's it, right? He clearly drew this, and it's like it's weird, but is it any weirder than like the fucking Bill Clinton painting where he's like wearing the Monica Lewinsky dress? Like it's clearly they were all doing this shit,
Right.
and one of the reasons that it hasn't come out so far is because they all were doing it. So like the Democrats haven't really pushed this angle that hard until kind of recently, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out because they're so clearly trying to do this in a way that doesn't also bring down a bunch of their own people. But I think maybe it just the time has come. Like they're like, we gotta take down Trump. So whatever. Who knows how that's gonna play out? But if you haven't heard the poem, I just wanted to recite it for you guys because it's very funny. What is the Enigma line? I'm gonna read it again. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? This is so fucking good to just imagine them in like a soap opera setting. You know, everything's soft focus and they're talking to each other. Just him, Epstein and Trump. We have certain things in common. A pal is a wonderful thing, and happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. So this shit's going on with Trump. He's hit a wall. Clearly, like it's gonna come out. He's taken over the FBI, so the FBI is making statements about how, like, you know, oh, don't fucking whatever, don't worry about it or whatever. I'm sure they're gonna release like a thing where the entire thing is redacted or something. But you know, Kash Patel's FBI is saying it's a non-story, whatever, you know. But I want to talk a little bit about Colbert to round this out because so this thing happened where I guess the CBS announced that the late night show, whatever the fuck the Colbert one is, the late show, the one that used to be Letterman that Colbert has now, is going to end. And it's kind of come out of the blue. And it's pretty clearly something to do with Trump. I don't know. You know, maybe there's other angles. It seems like everybody pretty easily put the pieces together that this has something to do with Trump because, well, on some level, Colbert is, you know, his whole thing now is he no longer is a satirist. He just plays the actual character, the straight man, I guess you would call it. But like he, you know, he's just a late night host that just sort of like talks about how Trump is bad or whatever. And it's interesting. There's something going on behind the scenes with like a merger that's happening with Paramount and this other company, because Paramount is the umbrella company that owns CBS and this TV show. And they're trying to say, like, the suits at Paramount are trying to say that like the Trump is trying to like to fucking upend this merger basically, and so that's why he's involved, and that's why he's, I don't know, here at all. It's very unclear. I don't know. I looked into it a little bit. I haven't had that much time. Be interested to hear if anyone has like further details on this, but like that seems to be the excuse they're using for having sort of like done things that led to this. However, they're also saying it's just a financial decision, which doesn't really make any sense because the Colbert Show is ostensibly very popular. It's one of their highest earning shows. So vis-a-vis Occam's razor, right? It sounds like the show is being disciplined for having attacked Trump because there was a 60 Minutes interview that the same network got sued for by the Trump administration. And it seems like they probably could have beat him in court, but for some reason they just settled with him. Colbert talked about this story. He called it a big fat bribe, right? Which is liberal comedian takes down orange man humor, right? Big fat bribe. Trump doesn't like this, so he does something that causes them to end the Colbert Show. So, okay, whatever. There's something happening here. I don't think it's like important for us to really interrogate that hard because I believe that Trump probably disciplined CBS here and does not like Stephen Colbert, and on some level is responsible for ending this TV show and yada yada yada. I don't want to go full, you know, conspiracy mode on that and go, or like even try to upend it like analytically, because on some level I kind of feel like I want to, because this has put fans of this types of humor in a position to feel like very lionized and very dangerous, I think. And sort of talk about how, you know, the orange man bad humor of Stephen Colbert is so dangerous at this point that they are literally censoring it, just like they did in Nazi Germany. And this kind of bugs me because this show sucks. Like, I'm sorry, it's not really like funny anymore. And it
Honestly,
doesn't have teeth either. It's not biting political like satire anymore. It's boomer humor. And, you know, Trump is fucking old and lame enough to where he might see it as a threat, and via these things that happen legally with like the 60 Minutes interview and everything, be pissed off enough to take it out just in revenge. But the implication here that what Stephen Colbert has been doing lately is dangerous and is the fucking vanguard of resistance is bad, in my opinion, because his show has been fairly like blue MAGA type, like establishment Democrat shit. He loves Joe Biden. He threw those softball, or no, he threw those weird questions at Zoran just recently because he's a DNC fucking shill cuck guy. So I feel very annoyed by feeling like this has put me in the position of needing to be more, it's morally right to still kind of defend Stephen Colbert and the show here, which sucks because I don't like it. And I know people that write on the fucking show and I like them, and I kind of, it sounds like he's not a good guy to work for and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, the narrative that's going to come away from this, in for the most part, with like older people being like, you know, this is because he was like a powerful voice of dissent, really bothers me. I don't know. What do you think?
honestly, I think this is maybe the best thing that could happen for Stephen Colbert, like comedically, because but I mean, maybe he'll just retire. Hard for me to imagine that, but I think there's a chance he'll do some like HBO show, someplace where he has like a little more freedom, and he'll like go back to the old Stephen Colbert character that he would do on the Colbert Report, except now it will be after, you know, the 10 years of Trump. And whatever that character is like now is going to be really interesting. I don't know if he's going to be like, honestly would be hilarious if it was like a never Trump Republican. But he's not going to do that. He'll I think maybe do the old Colbert, but in the Trump era.
I am going to go ahead and fucking place a bet with you at this exact moment. I sincerely don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he has the sauce to make to advance his like creatively and satirically and politically what he's doing to that level at all. I think he's been on a downward arc, and I think the entire like political late night genre that he's, you know, a big part of and was a big part of creating is on a downward arc and is not getting anywhere near like dissent and being challenging and subversive in any way, you know, because like the Daily Show is kind of the origin of all this stuff. And it was like, I mean, I watched it. Part of the reason I'm like this is I watched it before fucking Jon Stewart was on it. I watched it when it was Craig Kilborn, and it was just some like, you know, fake news show. It was a joke or whatever. And then it kind of came into its own. It became this interesting thing that like kind of you go, oh wait, they actually have like interesting, there's actually politics on this. There are like interesting points they're making via the satire. When the Jon Stewart version of the Daily Show formed during like the 2000 election and then subsequently the Bush years after the fallout of the election, much like, you know, the way that all these podcasts and shit that we're coming out of the same scene as formed around like the election leading up to Trump, and then having like the, you know, oh, is it all going to end when he loses and then he fucking wins and you go, oh shit, okay, this is like permanently kind of a point of view that needs to be here or whatever. That happened in 2000 with them. And Colbert was really funny because he was satirizing Fox News and like Bill O'Reilly, basically. And because he was playing a character that had a specific point of view, and it was just removed from his actual views a little bit by being only about someone else's views and then like pointing out how they're wrong, he got a lot of goodwill. And the project of like Daily Show style TV got a lot of goodwill by having a target that everyone understood was wrong. I think the problem with like American like liberals and that culture, you know, especially like that Gen X generation that didn't really have a moment like us where we all joined DSA and shit like that, is that it was a lot of, it was really good at critiquing stuff, and then if you'd go, oh, so what's your idea? Like, I don't fucking know, you know. I don't have anything, right? Or if they do have something, it's actually pretty weak. And with Colbert, he like low key is not really that different from the people he's satirizing. I guess it's kind of my hot take here. He's a Catholic, like he's a devout
Yeah.
Catholic. That's why he's a Zionist, because most Zionists aren't even Jewish. Like it's a lot. Most in America, it's a big Christian evangelical crazy thing, right? He, you know, I think he arrives at being like a really anti-Trump guy by nature of his politics, being that the system is fine. It's this guy that's wrong. We got to get this guy who's hijacked it out of office. That's, you know, essentially the kind of lib boomer orange man bad point of view, right? And I don't think there's any going back to. You can't put everything back in the box. You can't put the genie back in the bottle with this stuff.
I mean, have you all this, the Jon Stewart coming back to the Daily Show? You know, there were a lot of questions.
Yeah, but
Does
Jon
he
Stewart's
need-
politics
but
got better when he came back. He clearly
yeah.
was thoughtful about stuff and like paid attention and started doing stuff like he criticized Biden when Biden was running and was too old. That was like, he got in a lot of trouble with his own audience for that. He had, you know, honestly, it's a weird apt metaphor comparison to make. He kind of had a Fugazi moment with that shit, in my opinion. He was a fucking DC hardcore kid. Like, it makes sense that he would have a parallel way of thinking. But like, you know, the band Minor Threat, one of the original DC hardcore bands, like they built a huge following as defining DC hardcore, you know, via this like straight edge thing and like a reaction to all the fucking burnout druggies and stuff in the scene. They built this huge project and they fucking abandoned it and reformed as Fugazi, which is like a hardcore band with like jazz influences and shit like that. And when they showed up to play shows, their own audience that they had built, he was like, what the fuck is this? Like, they kind of went against him a few times, and they had the artistic like wherewithal to challenge their audience and go, no, fuck you. We played enough Minor Threat. You've heard enough fucking angry songs about being a young, angry white guy. You know, do this shit now, and no moshing, and show's only $5. And this like level of integrity that you have to have to keep like to keep being relevant as an art form you're in evolves and has these dialectic cycles and stuff like that. Dialectical cycles and stuff like that, rather. And like, I think this is where like Colbert's over. He's not going to come back around and have some like moment where he understands why people are upset about Gaza and the Democratic Party. That would be necessary for him to do anything that's relevant going forward. Jon Stewart, I will say, he kind of did that a little bit. I don't really watch The Daily Show that much. It's funny because I fucking know people that write on it and stuff. Weird place to be at your life as an old comedian where that would have blown my mind as a teenager, but now it doesn't really matter anymore. But like, I was impressed when he came back and he criticized Biden and stuff like that. And he's had like a little whiff of like our world of politics here and there that you can tell he's like internalized. Marin is another guy like this where I'm like, I never expected him to like actually kind of understand things, but he does. He's really good at articulating what's going on in like media right now. I watched him work out his own thoughts about Gaza on stage. It was a nail biter for me because I like him, you know, and he kind of like didn't get it at first. And then I fucking listened to his show recently and he figured it out. Like, it can happen, but I'm calling it right here. I don't think Colbert has the fucking nuts to do so.
I think
he
he'll
actually
try. Because
Yeah?
what else is he going to do? Just another talk show where it's just himself? Like, it'll be interesting. I think it could be very bad, but it'll be interesting to see if he tries. I think
he might. I mean, yeah, all he has to do is go move to another thing and continue to be like, you know, the type of left liberal centrist talk show host who tears up while talking about like J6 or whatever, you know, that's still a huge lane. They still all do that. I don't think that these people like Colbert and fucking Kimmel and all these people like individually realize that that's like increasingly like irrelevant as a point of view because they're making a lot of money off of it. Why would they give a shit? You have to be a fucking freak as an artist to do the Fugazi thing and go, no. We're gonna get off the gravy train and like actually look at things and reassess and make new stuff. If you're in something as like established as late night, why would you? Who gives a fuck? I think it only happened for Jon Stewart, honestly, because he fucking got bored and quit, and then he went out and was like a farmer for like a few years and stuff, and wasn't constantly being incentivized by like making new stuff. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Hashtag Kings things, whatever. Fuck, you know. I'm drunk. It's the end of the show. Argue with me in the Discord. But I'm calling it. I think Colbert's done forever.
All right.
Hey guys, if you enjoy the show, I've got a show here in Los Angeles this weekend. We're raising money for resistance against ICE. ICE has been raiding Los Angeles all summer. They're still doing it. My old neighborhood, MacArthur Park, is a big target. They have been scooping people off the street, and we've been out there fucking trying to, de-arrest people and resist. But one of the ways that we can help our friends who are street vendors who are being targeted in MacArthur Park is this fund I'm raising money for. It just buys them out. It just helps them get through the summer by keeping these people's bills paid so they don't have to put themselves in danger by being right there square in the crosshairs of ICE. So we're going to raise money via the show I'm doing. It's called Laugh Block. It's at the, the Lyric Hyperion. I'll have the ticket link in the show notes. I'm going to host it in Black Block. So it might not even be me. It'll just be a guy with a hoodie. Who knows?
Nice.
I got James Adomian. I got my friend Ramin Nazer, Sarah Sobsi. I got Skylar Higley. And I got a band. I'm a late night host now. I got a band. Yeah. It's this really cool noise artist who was doing noise sets at the anti-ICE stuff when we were keeping them up outside of their hotel rooms, and his name is boom 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 boom. He's got 2 names, so I'm looking him up to make sure I do the right name. Oh god damn it. Boom, Tricky Youth. Tricky Youth is going to be the band. I'm very excited. He's going to do walk-on music, but it's going to sound fucked up as per the theme of the show. You get it. Okay, thank you everyone. I'm Jake. Sign up for the Patreon if you like the show.
Yes, seconded. Ad Andersley here. Check out The Vanquished. All of the show announcement next week.
Cool. Okay, it's finished.